you're thinking is going on in the city of Chicago. There's so many things. There's the selection of a new superintendent. There's the decision about whether or not places like IPRA continue to exist, and there's all of this going on with the school board. What are your thoughts? Tell me about it.
I feel right now there's a power vacuum, and it's going to be filled by young people, particularly those who are agitating for change. We have a lot of individuals now who are pushing for change. They're vocal, they're being heard. So I feel real good about the future. There's going to be some changes in Chicago. We see there'll be, of course, changes in the police department, changes in IPRA, hopefully change in the state's attorney's office, perhaps even eventually a change in the mayoralty. Just change. Everyone is agitated now. It's like get on board or move out of the way.
But advocating for change means that you want change towards something. So what is it that we want to have happen? I know that you've had a lot of interaction with the police department and with the powers that be, the people that make decisions about how the city is run. What do you think we really need to have happen? What is it?
Well, I don't exactly know what we need, but I believe that what we will have is more community groups becoming more powerful.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have more, the black community in particular will be more representative in city government, in the police department.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think is going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, getting the community involved, engaged, is a big thing, because for years, I know as a young person, I was somebody that went out and was a community organizer. I went out and tried to get people to vote, and they said it didn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
What my vote doesn't matter. What is it going to take? Is this the moment where people are going to actually say, my vote matters, that what I think and what I'm doing is involved? Or
I think so, because not just in Chicago,
mm-hmm.
where we want to see change, but you see it on a national level right now. You
mm-hmm.
see a lot of interest in the presidential race. We saw that a lot of interest when Barack Obama ran, of
mm-hmm.
course, but we see just as much interest now that you have someone like Donald Trump and the Tea Party and Bernie Sanders achieving prominence. Some, individuals who in the past could not. So we have a lot of interest throughout the country and throughout the city in the elections
mm-hmm.
that we haven't had before.
So Chicago is kind of different. It's a unique city. Maybe not so unique. Maybe it really is a microcosm of what's going on in America generally. But we're so segregated. We're so, the effects of that segregation, the poverty and all of that stuff. What do you think about us as it relates to what happens nationally in terms of African Americans surviving and being an integral part of our country?
Well, we're becoming more, I would say, knowledgeable about what's going on around us now. Mm-hmm. Like you said, we were pretty much isolated until perhaps the Quantum McDonald incident, which caused particularly black people to see that we're not isolated. We're part of what's going on throughout the country. What, of course, I think is the solution to the overwhelming crime problem that we have here And we're not unique there either. Black communities throughout the country are, experiencing the same rise in crime. And the solution is, I believe, jobs. Young people don't, particularly young people, don't have jobs. They said that 50% of the young people in Chicago are unemployed. So when you have that level of unemployment, you have a culture of lawlessness being bred. It's like, what else do people have to do?
So what do we do? I mean, that's the big question. What do we do? Because we have so many generations of people, African American people in the city, who don't have jobs, who don't have the education or qualifications to get jobs. What do you think we can do? Where should we go? What should we try and accomplish with all this moment in time? Because it's so important that we not let this pass.
True. Well, we agitate and advocate for jobs and for power in every walk of life. We see the start of that, say, for instance, with the police department. We agitate for more jobs within the police department. Now that we have Brown Emanuel concerned about his legacy, we can push for change. We can push for more blacks in law enforcement in the police department. With the school system, now we see that it's really in turmoil. There's a big clash, of course, between the teachers and the city, and a bigger clash between the cities and union workers and the governor. Of course, I agree with Karen Lewis myself that the governor has lost touch with reality, with what he's trying.
If he ever had it.
True.
I mean, but it's interesting though too, because this morning when I was listening to the news, and you have to just kind of take the news with a grain of salt, determining whether or not even internally within the teachers union whether there's agreement, because I understand Karen and some of the other people within the teachers union don't agree about what the teachers' contract should look like. And that's troublesome, because that means it'll take even longer for this to happen.
True. I would say that, Karen Lewis is where Hillary Clinton is. It's like she's beginning to wonder what can be done at this point. You haven't had a contract, say, for a year or so. So what can be done? Do we accept what we can get? We fought hard. This is what we can get. Maybe this is being practical. Whereas you have those, I would say, like in Bernie Sanders' camp, that we want change. We want the best deal possible. We don't want to just settle. If we have to fight harder, we'll fight harder. That's what I think you have now. I think Karen Lewis wanted to settle. I don't know if she felt the fight could be won if we took it further.
But is that good? I mean, I really don't know. I think that education is key to all the problems that we have right now in the city. It's the cornerstone of what happens for kids in terms of them being able to compete, just not in the city, but nationally and globally. They have to have a good education. So is the teachers union actually fighting for that, or are they fighting for their own welfare? And how do we assure that the real goal is to make sure that our kids, because most of the kids in the public school system in Chicago are African American or of color, how do we make sure that they're getting the best resources to make that happen? Because they are the people that are going to take those jobs that are going to be created in the future.
I think, as you say, it's just the resources, and they're not getting the resources because of the politicians. As far as the instruction and the integrity of the teachers, you have that in Chicago. You know, I was a high school history teacher myself.
Yeah?
Yes.
And how long ago? So
in the 70s, from I want to say 74 until I became a policeman in 81. I was a history teacher in Chicago, and I have 8 children, and they are all products of the Chicago public school system. And 7 of them are college graduates, and some of them have advanced degrees from throughout the country. So they were prepared by the Chicago public school system. And as a teacher within that system, I know that you have plenty of dedicated teachers who are more than able to instruct the children. But today what you have, I think, is the propaganda that says that the school system is bad, and that, of course, casts aspersions on the teachers. And you have this push for charter schools. And to me, the charter schools are what the money people and the politicians want, rather than what is really needed. Everyone wants a better school for their children. So consequently, you have the development of within the public school system. Say schools where you had to pass tests to get in, and so consequently everyone wanted to go to the Walter Paytons and Whitney Youngs. What about these students who could not get into Northside Prep in those schools? Then you come up with the idea of charter schools, and you put forth the propaganda that the charter schools are better than the public schools. The only reason why charter schools might have a slight edge is more discipline. See, with charter schools, just like in the past with technical or vocational schools, and I'm a product of Dunbar Vocational myself, those schools were not considered to be neighborhood schools. And if you were a discipline problem, you would just be sent back to your neighborhood school where there was a discipline problem. After teaching for, say 7 years myself, my problems in the classrooms were discipline. One person who's a discipline problem in your room could affect the education of your other students. And that's also, I believe, the advantage that Catholic and private schools had over public schools. They had discipline, and if you did not want to, adhere to that discipline system, you were sent back to, say, your neighborhood public school, which ended up with a lot of discipline problems.